So this is that second video in 1.3, notes on factoring. This is going to be the trial and error video. So here we're going to talk about when we have three terms, a trinomial, we use trial and error. And this is when you have the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So what we have here are guidelines. Our first guideline we talk about when we look at it, what you're going to do, remember that these are numbers, A, B, and C, okay? So when I talk about find, on the guidelines, find the factors of A and C, okay? That's just the numbers. Factors are the numbers you multiply together to get a number. So number 2, though, after that, you're going to determine the signs. And just remember what we're talking about here. We want this to be in two binomials multiplied together, and then you FOIL to get back to here, to the ax squared plus bx plus c. But here, if you have two binomials, the signs are, we're trying to figure out what's this sign and what's this sign. What goes in here? Is it a plus? Is it a minus? Or vice versa? Or just minus, minus? Whatever it is. So those signs that we find in there are always going to be based on signs B and C. Should be signs, plural, B and C. So for example, let me just give you the little things. If I have a positive B and a positive C, then both factors are positive. I'll put that like that. Okay. If we have a negative B but a positive C, then both factors are negative. And the last one, if you have a plus or a minus B, but a negative C, then you will have opposite signs. Doesn't matter which one, you'll just have opposite signs. Where we put them, we'll determine that in a second. All right, so once you find those factors, you're going to place the first term in each parenthesis. Let me do this a different color so you can see it. So when you look at those, the factors of A, you're going to place them in the first term in each of the parentheses. And then when you find those factors of C, you'll place those in the second term of each parentheses. And the final thing you want to do is you want to check. And we're going to check by using the O and the I in FOIL. Okay? So remember, FOIL the first, outer, I stands for inner, and then last. So the first two terms, that's FOIL, and then O is for the outer, inside, last. So we multiply those together, we wind up being able to determine if we did it correctly. Okay. Now, some helpful hints, which are really, really helpful when you do this, especially, and if you take the time to make sure that you look at it carefully and go back and forth, it won't be as much of a I would say problem, but it may not take as much of your time to figure out which was which, okay? Okay, so some helpful hints. When you start, so this number 1 is dealing with this number 1. So when you start with looking at those factors of A and C, start with the closer numbers. So those numbers that are closer to each other on the number line. And this next part actually deals with another thing that when you put in parentheses, you can never have a common factor in a parentheses. So there will never have common factors in a parentheses. So if, for example, if you had 2x plus 4 in one of your binomials, well, this can't work because you have this 2 here and this 4, and they have this common factor of 2. You wouldn't be able to put them in the same parentheses. That helps you to understand which can go together, okay? So let's look at A. Let me move this up so for myself. Okay, so for A, we're going to look at first the factors of A and C. So here's A, here's C. So the factors of of A, which is your 6, is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. And then your factors of B, which is 12, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. Okay? Now, one thing we know, since this is a plus and a plus, we're going to have a plus and a plus kind of situation. Both those factors are going to be positive no matter what we put in them. All that means is that in the middle here of your binomial factors, you have a plus, plus, okay? It's x squared, so we know we have to put in x each one, but now we've got to determine which do we want to use, okay? So when you say use the closer one, we're going to think of this 2 and this 3 because they're close on the number line, and when we do the 2 and 3, it doesn't matter which one goes first. They both belong in the first part of the first term in each parentheses. So here's 2x, and then I'm putting the 3x here. That's where my a's go. For the second part, I'm looking at, let's look at these right here. Okay, so 3 and 4 is closer. Now this is what I'm talking about where we have to look at this part right here. This will really help you a lot. I have a 3 and a 4. If I put them in here just like I see them, okay, but let's just say I decided I'm going to put the 4 first, and I'm going to put the 3 second. It doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter which order they go in, but if I look at that guideline or that helpful hint that I have, I cannot put these together because 2 and 4 have a common factor, and here 3 and 3 have a common factor. Okay, so I can't put that together. So I can use, but I can switch them if I want. Okay, if I switch them and I put 3 first and 4 second, it's kind of like just how I read it, how it's written here, but I wanted to make a point. So here I'm okay, as in I know that when I they're not the same fact, they don't have a common factor, so I'm good so far. So now the last thing I want to do is I want to check. So we're going to check the outer, we're going to multiply that together, and we get 8x. Multiply the inner, add that to here, we get 9x. So 8x plus 9x is 17x. And since it's this middle term here, then I know I have the right answer. I factored correctly. Okay, let's try B. All right, B again. A is 5, so 1 times 5, that's the only factors of 5. C is 10, and I have 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. So I have a plus and a minus, so my signs are going to be opposite. And the thing about it is, like, where do they go? You're not sure. Okay? And it depends on just where you place your number. So I guess what you do is you just do this one, you know for sure. It has to be a 1 and a 5. Okay? If you want to put an x here and a 5x here, okay, that's fine. Now you got to determine, am I going to use 1 and 10 or 2 and 5? Well, 2 and 5 are closer in number, so I can use that. And so I think I know that I cannot, if I use this one, I cannot put it in this order like this. Okay? Because the 5s and the 5s, they cannot go together. They have the same factor. So if I just switch it to the other way, where I have a 2 here and a 5 here, then I'm okay. Now this is where you got to determine your sign. So if you're not sure, then just substitute some numbers in there and see what you get. Now see if I multiply, if you're thinking about what you're actually doing and you're multiplying these out, and if you see that you're multiplying and you got this 23, and see how you have this 5 times 5 is a 25, then that kind of helps you to determine, maybe think about, oh, maybe one go here, one go there. If not, put them in there and multiply the outside and the inside and check your work and see how it goes from there. Okay, so I have a plus 5 and I did a minus 2. If I FOIL, just do the outer and inner, x times a negative 2 is a negative 2x. 5 times 5x is a positive 25x, which gives me a positive 23x. So therefore, this is correct. And it's trial and error. I mean, if you picked 1 and 10, then you would have to keep checking that outer inner. You have to check that part. And I want to make sure that kind of go review this. If you're doing this, you've got to understand that when you pick things and the way we do this, I'm going to go back up to here. So right here, this is a 6x squared. So what I'm highlighting, the 2 and the 3x, then when I multiply that together, it has to give me that 6x squared when I go to maybe FOIL to check what my, if I want to find out what the trinomial is, and I FOIL it out and get what that answer is. So just know you have to do that to kind of spot check, just make sure you got that answer right. Because what if you did your factors wrong or something like that? So check yourself both ways, just like a spot check that part. Okay. So next part we're gonna do is we're gonna do, this one is going to be, so 18. I have a, I'm gonna put it over here. So a, let's make it a different color. So a, oops. A is going to be 18, which is 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. I have 12, which is 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. You could have looked just up here too, but I wrote it out anyways. And that's going to be my C. Okay, so now I want to make sure which ones I can use. Again, this is a minus and a minus, so I didn't pay attention to that part, but I know that if it's a minus and a minus inside there based on our little notes up here, if C is minus and B is minus, then I know I have to have opposite signs in my parentheses there. The factors have opposite sides, so I know I'm going to have a plus and a minus. It doesn't have to be in that order. This was the same thing here. I had a plus and a minus. But again, it wasn't in that order. Not necessarily. Okay. All right, so let's choose the two parentheses. I'm going to do a parentheses here, parentheses here. So let's see. If I choose the closest one for A, those two must go in my first term. So I'm going to put my 3x here and my 6x here. Okay, now I'm going to go over to the C's and the factors I want to use. I'm going to look at this 3 and 4. Okay, this 3 and 4 may not, is one that you can look at. Do I get to use that one? Well, let's ask ourselves. 3, if I put a 3 here, the 3 here, these two 3's are factorable. They have a common factor of 3. And even if I switch and so it's 3 and 4, and then I switch it to 4 and 3, then the 3 has this common factor here. So that 3 is throwing it off for both of them. 4 had a common factor of 6 with the 6x, but not that one. Okay, so we're not going to use that one. All right, so let me erase this part. Let me go to the next one. I don't want to get rid of the actual whole, 3x, 6x, because one didn't work. I'm going to look at which one I want to use. So I'm going to try 2 and 6. Okay, so does the 2 and 6 work? Well, let's see. If I think of 2 and 6, and I'm just going to look at just the 6 part that's going to throw us off. If 6 goes here, of this here, it's going to be a common factor with this 3. Even if you ignore that, but put the 6 here, thinking I can move it in the other one, I move the 2 around. I'm just looking at the 6 part. It cannot work either because this 6 and this 6 have something common. All right, so I'm just looking at the 1 and 12. 1 and 12 is going to be the same way because 12, if it goes in the first parentheses, has a common factor with 3. And if 12 goes in the second parentheses, it also has a common factor of 3. So I'm not going to be able to use both that one at all as well. So therefore, I can't use this here. Okay? This we cannot use. Okay? It has all common factors. So I'm not going to use the 3 and the 6. Okay? So don't use that one. And so we'll just try a different one. It doesn't matter. It's called trial and error. That's what it does. And let me just do, all right, so if I do my parentheses, I'm not going to do 3 and 6. So I'm going to try 2 and 9. That's the next closest one. So I'm going to do 2x and a 9x. Okay? So again, I'm going to start over here with 3 and 4. That's the closest numbers together on this one for the number line. So 3 and 4, you can just spot check where it goes. You cannot do it a 4 here and a 3 here. Okay? Right? I'm not even going to put them in there because they both have something in common factor. But if you switch them, then you're good. No, this doesn't want to read at all. So if I switch them, I'm going to have I'm going to put a 3 here, 4 here, opposite signs. Kind of pay attention. I need a negative 19, a big number, so I need one of these numbers to come out big. So I'm going to try a minus here and a plus here. So let's check. Outside is 8x. Inside, negative 27x. We subtract that, we get a negative 19x. So therefore, this is our solution. This is our factors. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, so again, we have 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. We have 8, which is 1 and 8, 2 and 4. So which one do we want to use? 2 parentheses. Now, because it's a minus and a plus, you go back up and look, that means this is going to be minus and a minus. So I know I have a minus here no matter what. Okay? All right. So with 18, again, choose which one you want to do. If you do, I'm just going down at the bottom one again because they're closer. If I do 3x, 6x, and I try it with 2 and 4, I cannot do it. 2 and 4 have a common factor with 6. So now if I look at 1 and 8, does that work? Well, I know I can't put 8 here, but I can put a 1 here. I could put the 8 here. So if I do 8 and 1, when I try to multiply this together, do I get this 25x in the middle? So if I do 3 times 1, that's a negative 3x. I do 6 times that, that's a negative 48x. Automatically, this is a much of 3 and 48 are negative 51x, which is not 25. So I can't use this one at all because it doesn't work for either one of those factors. Okay. So now let's try another one. I'll just leave that there. I'm not going to use this one. So we're going to go over here. So I didn't like the 3 and the 6. That wasn't going to work at all. So let's try the 9 and the 2. And I'll put 2x first, then 9x. They both get a minus and a minus. Now, hopefully, if you can't see, I got that 25. How do I make a 25? Well, they have to both negative, okay? So if I do the 2 and the 4, if I try to use the 2 and the 4, I cannot do that because 2, and no matter where I put these two, they get in this one, they have a common factor. So I can't use the 2 and 4. So we're going to try the 1 and 8. And I'm just kind of looking at what I need as a small kind of number. Just going to see, I kind of look at it. If I put a 1 here and 8 here, can I get negative 25? So 2 times the negative 8 is a negative 16x. And negative 1 times a 9x is a negative 9x. And that gives us a negative 25x. So therefore, those work. Okay, last 2 examples. So here we have 5 and 21. We have a plus and a minus in there so that we know our problem will be a plus and a minus. Okay. So we want to find the factors of 5 first. Or 1 and 5. And then 21 will be 3, 7, 1, and 21. Don't know why to go first. Okay, so write your 2 parentheses. You're going to have 1 and 5 are the only factors here. Again, it doesn't really matter where we put them because we need those. Okay. At this point, when you're looking at which one do you want to use, you kind of have to look at how this is going to be a positive 16 there. And I don't know if that will help you. Maybe you can look at it. But I'm just this time going to try the 1 and 21 just to see, because we usually don't use that 1 and 21 or that 1 that's up there. Okay, so if I'm putting using 1 and 21, 21 is going to be one spot. I can put it here if I want. I can put the 1 here. Okay, now determine your sign. We're just going to get the positive, which is going to negative based on this. 16x is positive, so maybe you might see that which one where the positive negative goes, but if you don't, just take a guess and put it in there. Hopefully you can spot it, but if I put a minus here and a plus here, will I get the negative 16x when I do outer and inner? So I do the outer, I get a positive 5x. I do the inside, I get a negative 21x, which winds up with a negative 16x, so I didn't put my signs in the right place. So we are going to switch them. So we're going to switch them. We're going to erase this one. I'm just going to erase it for the sake of showing what I'm doing. So now I'm going to have to change them to the other sign that I want. I will have a positive 21 and a negative 1. So when I multiply that out, 5x times 1 is a negative 5x. Positive 21 times a 1 is a positive 20x, which gives me a positive 16. So this is correct. This next one we're doing, it looks different than what we have seen so far. The difference is here, we're used to seeing the square term first. You can rewrite this to change it around so that you have that. So I'm just going to rewrite it, not do anything different, and I'm going to put this part in the front. Well, this sign is in front of the 15x squared. So we really have a negative 15x squared, a minus 4x, and this is a positive 3 at the end. Now I'm in that form. The only thing is, everyone I've done so far, I've never had this part right here negative. So the only thing you need to do is think about taking out GCF. Take out a GCF. The thing I want out is the negative. So if I divide everything by a negative 1, that will change that. But because I'm doing that, I'm taking out GCF. My GCF, I have to put the negative on the outside. So don't forget that part. When I do that, I wind up with 15x squared plus 4x minus 3. So now we have factors of 15, 1 and 15, 3 and 5, and then the factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. So with this one, parentheses on the outside, I can automatically place my 3 and my 1, doesn't matter which one I go to. Now, so now I'm going to find which ones I want to use for the 1 or 15 or the 3 and 5. Now I just got to figure out what I want to do for the first terms of each and the signs. Since I have a plus and a minus in there, I'm going to have a plus or minus. Doesn't matter which order it's in. The signs are opposite. Okay, so if you choose 3 and 5, we can choose this one because it's closest. I can't put the 3 first in the first term, so I'm going to do 5x first. And then I'm going to put the 3x here. Now I got to determine which one is which sign. This middle term here is a positive 4x that we're going to have. So I need the bigger number that I get when I multiply, got to be a bigger number. And I see that this is 3 times 3 is going to give me a 9. And the 5 times 1 will give me a 5 if I do outer and inside. So what I think about, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to make this a positive 3 here and a minus 1. Okay, so make sure we can see that. Positive 3 and a minus 1. And if I check that, that gives me a negative 5x plus positive 9x. And that gives me a positive 4x, which is what I have here. So this is my solution. Do not forget the negative. It's incorrect if you don't. So I'm going to do this, and I believe in your homework you're going to see answers or your solutions this way. So let's do F again, doing it slightly different. So instead of switching it around, you can. Now at this point, if you do not, this switching around is easier on you, you might want to stop. This is what I showed in class. But I'm going to do it without having to do that. I know that I'm going to still do 2 parentheses. Still going to have the same idea. This time A is this, and this one's C. So my factors of A are 1, which is 3, are 1 and 3. And my factors of C, which are 15, which is going to be 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay. So because, again, these are just 1 and 3, they're the only factors I have, that's what I'm going to use. But notice this is just a 3. There's no x attached. So it's just going to be a 1 and a 3. Okay. Now I'm going to use 3 and 5 because they're closer together. Okay, so choosing the 3 and the 5. I can't put the 3 in this one, so I'm going to put the 5 here. And it's got an x because it's x squared. And this is going to be 3x. Okay, and now determine the signs. Well, I need a negative 4, okay? So that means that my 2 numbers I multiply, it must be negative. So if this is negative, and this is positive, let's see if we get it right, okay? So that's a positive 5x, and this is a negative 9x. That gives me a negative 4x when I put it together. So this is in the right order. So just to kind of recap of doing both ways, both of these will be correct, okay? So make sure that you realize you can do either or. I believe my notes, or my answer key has both types of situations to use, okay?